So, I want to talk in this video about what I think are some of the worst logical fallacies and political talking points that I often hear people use. And these are points across the political spectrum on the left, on the right, libertarians, whatever. And I'm going to just kind of go through them one by one and talk about why each of them is a terrible talking point. So the first one, I'm not going to talk about this too much because I've talked about this already in a bunch of other videos, but it's basically a modernist talking point, which is you want to bring back horse shit in the streets or some variation of that. Or like, if you think anything from the past was better, you must also reject everything that we have today. Or also like, you want Disneyland, you want a theme park, whatever. Essentially, these are all variations of the same argument saying that if you prefer anything about the past, then you must take everything. It's all or nothing. It's like, oh, if you like traditional architecture, then you also have to give up indoor plumbing and you have to give up electricity. It's like, no, you don't, though, because if you go to a major city today like Paris or Rome, there are people today living in traditional buildings who have indoor plumbing, who have air conditioning, well, in some cases have air conditioning, who have electricity. And it's like, it's so fallacious. And this idea like horse shit in the streets, it's like, okay, but we don't have horse shit in the streets today, even though we still have well-preserved traditional neighborhoods in many cities and towns. It's like it's possible to keep some things from the past without keeping everything from the past. It's like these people are incapable of making that differentiation. So that would be the first fallacy right there. And to be honest, I've already skewered this one to death. So I'm going to move on. The next one is kind of related. It's you long for a time that never was. Again, same principle. It's like because you long for certain aspects of the past, you want a past that never was because there were also bad aspects of the past. It's like, okay, it's technically true that no time period was perfect, but I think you could make a much better world if you incorporated certain elements of the past and combined them with the best elements of the present. So this whole you long for a past that never was, it's bullshit because it's like the vast majority of people aren't saying we need to literally recreate the past. What they're saying is we need to take the best elements of the past, combine them with the best elements of the present, and maybe add in a few elements that have never really been tried before. So again, like nobody is saying, aside from a few people like Ted Kaczynski, are saying that like we literally need to bring back the past. So yeah. Okay, the next one, moving on. If the Allies hadn't won the war, we'd all be speaking German today, or any variation of the we'd all be speaking German today. The reason why I hate this one is because it implies that there's something inherently bad with speaking German in and of itself. It's like, and they never say it about Japan. They never say like, oh, we'd be speaking Japanese. It's always we'd be speaking German. So I think there is an inherent like kind of ethnic hatred in this statement because it's implying that like there is something bad in and of itself about speaking the German language. Like, I mean, my own ancestors spoke German. My grandfather spoke German. My grandmother spoke German. Like, it's just bullshit. It's like, it's ethnic hatred disguising itself as some sort of principled ideological argument. It's like, what's so bad about inherently speaking German? What's so bad inherently about the various aspects of German culture? It's like, okay, if you want to criticize Hitler, that's one thing, but you're basically saying that German in and of itself is evil or repugnant or whatever. So, and these are the same people who call themselves non-racist. It's like, oh, okay, you're so non-racist, but yet you have this utter contempt and hatred for everything German. Like, not even just for Hitler and Nazism, but for everything German. So it's like, frankly, it's like, well, My ancestors didn't all speak English either. So it's like, yeah, if I was speaking German, who fucking cares? Like, honestly, maybe, okay, for some people I can understand that. But that's another thing. It's like the assumption. It's like the assumption that like everybody has this like deep emotional tie to the English language. It's like I don't. Honestly, I speak English because it's what I was raised in. But like yeah, if history had gone differently and if I was speaking German today, I wouldn't see that as a betrayal of who I am. If anything, it would be closer to who I am. It's just yeah, history didn't happen to go that way. Fair enough. But I'm saying speaking German in and of itself to me would not be a bad thing. Sadly, ich kann nicht Deutsch gesprochen, but I really wish that I could. I took 2 years of it in high school. Honestly, it's not that easy to learn, especially when you have no real cultural frame of reference other than Rammstein. So it's like, but yeah, I mean, I wish I was speaking German. Okay, the next one is guns don't kill people, people kill people. This is an argument used by pro people who are pro gun, and it's a really fucking stupid argument. I'm not even like hardline anti gun, I'm kind of like a centrist on this issue, but this is just stupid, okay? Guns are a killing tool. They are a weapon by definition. They are designed to kill, whether to kill people or to kill animals. But either way, they are a killing machine. People with guns kill people, and guns make it a hell of a lot easier to kill people. It's such a stupid argument. It's like, yes, you could theoretically, like if you're John Wick, you could kill someone with a fucking pencil, or you could kill somebody with the sole of your fucking shoe, okay? But most people aren't John Wick. And for most people, like, yeah, a gun makes it a hell of a lot easier to kill someone. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but guns do kill people. This is just, it's bullshit. People with guns kill people. Guns make it a lot easier to kill people. There's a reason why the murder rate is higher in the US than in other developed countries. And it's not just demographics, because again, as I point out over and over, what about France? Why is France's murder rate so low, even though they have a very similar vibrant population to the United States? So it's like, I'm sorry, but guns do make it easier to kill people. This is just a terrible argument. Like, there are pro-gun arguments that I do to some extent agree with, but this is not one of them. This is like the worst pro-gun argument in existence. And if they want to make their case, they really need to stop with this particular argument, because it's a losing one, it's a shitty one, it's a fallacious one. Okay, the next are two very different issues, but it's basically the same argument. Okay, for diversity, like any variation of we've always been diverse, we've always had immigration, we've always been multicultural. And then for climate change, the climate has always been changing. Now, I'm very much to the right on immigration and to the left on climate change, so that might confuse some people, but I think it's the same fallacy used in both these cases. The idea that like, oh, there were very minor changes happening in the past and very, very sudden radical changes today. Both of those are exactly the same. It's like, no, they're not. The change started increasing at an exponential rate in both cases. Actually, around the same time, I think. Actually, for climate change, I think it started increasing a bit earlier, but either way, there's parallels in both cases where it's like, yes, it was something that was gradually changing, and then it started changing all of a sudden in a much more exponential way. And you're acting like you're equivocating the two, saying like, well, it's always been changing. Change has always been happening. It's like, yes, some amount of change has always been happening, but in a very slow, measured way versus in a sudden, dramatic, exponential way. Those are two very different things. And it's bullshit. It's gaslighting to say that they're exactly the same. Like, oh, the climate's always been changing. The demographics have always been changing. No, they haven't, not to this extent, not to anywhere near this extent. And it shows, frankly, a rejection of the sheer concept of mathematics. Another one, which is so obvious that I don't need to get into it, is when people say per capita doesn't matter, like with crime stats. Yes, per capita does matter. And if you think per capita doesn't matter, you're dumb. Like if you think 10 murders in Tokyo is the same thing as 10 murders in a small town of 500 people, You're very wrong. You are very wrong. Okay, the next is every month is White History Month or any variation of that. Essentially, the idea that celebrating whiteness is the default. No, it's not. Not anymore. If you went into the past, you can make an argument for that. Like if you're saying like even maybe like definitely before the 60s, but even maybe a little bit afterward. But nowadays, most of the history we learn about white people is how white people were colonialists, they were slavers, they were committers of genocide, they were Nazis, apartheid, Atlantic slave trade, colonization of the Americas. That's mostly what we learn about. And there's a lot less focus on our positive achievements like science, math, art, architecture, and hell, even the positive aspects of the colonization of the Americas. No, they don't even get into that. It's all about like, oh, genocide, slavery, whatever. Like, so no, not every month is White History Month. Or if it is, it's like the white history that they're shoving in our faces is history that's designed to make us feel guilty and hate ourselves. So that whole thing is bullshit. The next one. We taught y'all how to bathe. Again, there's many problems with that statement. Firstly, the we. And secondly, the taught y'all how to bathe. I mean, okay. Europeans did bathe during the Roman era. We know that because there were Roman baths. Did they forget this knowledge during the Middle Ages? I actually don't know. I'm not well versed enough on this historical period to comment. But I will say, even if there is truth to the idea that Moors reintroduced bathing to Europe, here's the bottom line. Moors wasn't Kangs, okay? The Moors as a whole were North Africans and Arab/Berber people. They was not Kangs. So we was not Moors, and y'all did not teach us how to bathe, okay? Yeah, and again, I don't even know if that's true. I don't even know if Europeans actually did forget how to bathe and Moors retaught them this. But even assuming it is true, y'all was not Moors. I mean, there were probably a few blacks in the ranks of the Moors, but by and large, the Moorish civilization was not a black civilization. It was an Arab/Berber civilization. Okay, the next one, two variations of the same thing. Taxation is theft, and eventually you run out of other people's money. Okay. The problem with taxation is theft. I've explained this before, but I'll explain it again now. By living in a society, you implicitly consent to pay taxes because you make use of the roads, the sidewalks, the plumbing, the electricity, etc. The only way in which taxation could truly be theft is if you were living in the middle of the woods and you were hunting animals and you were not using any human technology. Like you can't even use a gun. Okay, maybe if you're using a gun, you should pay a little bit of taxes, but not much. But the only way in which truly you should not have to pay any taxes is if you are literally 100% self-sufficient. So like crafting your own weapons, crafting your own tools, and living in the woods like a savage. Like literally like living like a caveman. Otherwise, like, I'm sorry, but to quote Obama, you didn't build that all by yourself. Like, there is some truth to that quote. Like, this idea that, like, taxation is theft. No, it isn't, because you are living in a society. You are benefiting off being part of a society. And the reason why taxes exist is because it's too inconvenient to simply pay for every single transaction separately. And there's a lot of implicit transactions in what you do every day by walking on a sidewalk, by driving on a road, by using water from the tap. You are implicitly committing a financial transaction, and taxes are a way of streamlining that. They're a way of adding up all the implicit transactions you commit as part of living in a society, and this is your payment for it. Taxation is not theft. This is stupid. Can taxes theoretically, or not just theoretically, but actually in some cases be unfairly high? Yes. But is taxation inherently theft? No, it is not. And this whole idea is bullshit. Similarly, the idea of other people's money, it's like, okay, let's be honest. When they say other people's money, they mean the rich. Like, if you run out of other people's money. The rich do not get rich by simply playing fair. Like, anybody who's rich is making a shitload of money because other people are making less money to help them. And that's fine to some extent. That's how it works in the business world. But it's like, okay, taxes are the way you pay back. It's the way you pay society back for what it has given you. It has given you the opportunities to succeed, the opportunity to rise up on the shoulders of other people, of workers who make less money. And taxes are your way of paying back into that society. And you still, at the end of the day, have way more money than those people do. But oh no, you have to pay some of it in taxes. Yeah, okay, so it's this whole other people's money thing. It's total bullshit because it's like, okay, you want to talk about theft? I think there's a good case that can be made that the price of labor is theft. Like, people are having their labor stolen from them for being paid so much less than they should be based on the value of their labor compared to the value of the people higher up. So no, taxation's not theft, and no, it's not simply stealing other people's money. Other people meaning rich people. Like, yes, maybe rich people deserve to be richer, but they don't deserve to be so much richer that they shouldn't have to fork over any of it in tax money. I'm sorry, no. They owe society a debt for the opportunities it has given them to succeed. And that's their way of paying back society for the opportunities they've been granted. Opportunities they wouldn't have if they were in fucking Equatorial Guinea or someplace like that. Okay, the next one is the money trickles down. So kind of a variation of that argument, like trickle down theory. The idea that, oh, even without taxes, the money trickles down. No, it doesn't. Not enough. Not in any significant way. All you get is like the scraps from the table. That is why taxes are needed. That is why some amount of social programs are needed. That is why the government needs to do certain things that, frankly, private industry doesn't do very well, or doesn't do in a way that is affordable to the average person, like healthcare, for instance, or like public transit. But anyway, I've been focusing a lot on this, so I want to move on to the next one. Okay. Hate speech isn't free speech. This statement is really stupid because it's like, okay, by definition, if hate speech is not free speech, then the term free speech is meaningless. If all that free speech means is that you're able to state opinions that are socially acceptable, then it's not free speech. Or maybe they'll say, oh, we'll allow some disagreement, but only on trivial issues. Like, we'll allow disagreement on like economics, but not on social issues or whatever. It's like, well, okay, not to say economics is trivial, but what I mean to say is that's not true dissent. Like, true free speech means being able to advocate on ideas that are unpopular. If you're only protecting ideas that are popular, then it's not actually free speech. So yeah, hate speech isn't free speech. It's a total oxymoron. Okay. The next one is anybody who denies they are something is that thing they're being accused of. Okay, it's kind of like she doth protest too much. The thing is, it does kind of make you look weak, and it's probably not a good idea to just constantly deny, oh, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. But in some cases, it actually does mean the person is just kind of groveling. It doesn't mean they actually are the thing they're being accused of. And it is very malicious to say, like, oh, because you deny you're gay, therefore you're gay, or something, anything like that. It's like, personally, I understand it's bad optics. It makes you look weak. It makes you look like a cock, like a beta simp or whatever, to just deny. But no, just because somebody's denying something doesn't mean they actually are the thing that they're denying. What it could mean is that they're just a weak person who lacks the fortitude to just say fuck off, which is what they should say. Like, if somebody accuses you of being something you're not, you only need to really deny it once. Just say, no, I'm not, fuck off. You don't need to just deny over and over and over again, like a groveling weakling. But nonetheless, it is bullshit logic. The idea that, like, denying something makes you the thing that you're denying. It's bullshit. Okay, the next one is, if something is suppressed, it must be true. This is kind of contrarianism 101. This is the idea that conspiracy theorists always use, which is, if something, again, like, I am advocating for free speech and the idea that, like, you should be allowed to express unpopular opinions, but no, just because something's unpopular and just because something is suppressed doesn't inherently make it true. saying that something is true because it's unpopular, it's basically the opposite of appeal to authority. It's like appeal to contrarianism, appeal to distrust of authority. And it's like, no, okay, sometimes when the authorities or when the average person says water is wet, water actually is wet. You know, it's not like this idea that you should automatically believe the opposite of what the authorities say or what the average person says. It's just bullshit, because it's like it's just as stupid to be a pathological contrarian as it is to be a pathological conformist. Like, really, you have to think for yourself and you have to use logic. Like a good example of this would be like, okay, like pedos, like people who prey on like children. They're a group that is suppressed in society. Does that make them right? No, it doesn't. So like the idea that like being suppressed, if something is suppressed, therefore it must be true, it's faulty logic, okay? And I do see a lot of right wingers say this about like the Holocaust and other historic events. And it's like, I'm sorry, but this isn't a good argument. This is not a good argument to use, because pedos could just as easily use that same argument in their favor. There's a lot of really fucked up people who could use that same argument in their favor. The idea that, oh, if something is suppressed, if something is taboo, if something is unpopular, therefore it must be correct. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. And I'm not, again, like, I'm not advocating for the opposite. The opposite is also a fallacious and stupid talking point. The idea that, like, go with the flow, keep calm and carry on. The majority is always right, whatever. No, I don't agree with that either. Poptimism. No, I definitely don't agree with that perspective either. So, yeah. The next one. Okay. Just be glad you're not a starving orphan in Africa, or any variation of that. Basically, the argument that you can't complain about anything if someone else in the world has it worse. This argument is really stupid, because it's like, it's basically saying that if anyone has it worse than you, then you don't have it bad in any regard. And it's like, no, that's not true. You could be privileged in some ways, have a good life in some ways, but have a shitty life in others. You could live in a country that has certain very strong qualities, but other very strong detractions. Like this idea that, like, it just doesn't make sense. And you flip that on its head, be like, oh, you're not allowed to be happy if someone else has it better than you. You're not allowed to talk about how great your life is if somebody else has a better life. So it's like, you could flip that on its head, and it's so stupid. And I see this argument used all the time. And the good thing is I've actually seen a number of people online, even among like kind of like liberal Reddit types, point out the flaw in this particular argument, because it is just very fallacious. Okay, the next one is, you are 100% responsible for your own actions and your own outcomes. This is a perspective I see a lot of mainstream conservatives, capitalists, and libertarians holding. The idea that, like, you're a blank slate, you're responsible for your own actions 100%, and everything you do, everything that happens to you. It sounds nice in theory, but I'm sorry, that's not how the world works. People, they don't choose their genetics. They don't choose their psychological disposition. They don't choose what family they're born into, what country they're born into, what race they're born as. Like, there's a lot of things that people don't choose. So the idea that you're 100% responsible for your own actions and outcomes, I don't agree with it. Like, I think society does impact people. I think the people around you impact you. And yeah, there is an element of choice. I'm not saying that I'm 100% a determinist and that I don't believe in any level of free will. But I mean, I can't believe I'm going to defer to Forrest Gump on this, but I'm going to say maybe it's both. Maybe it's both. Ironically, the 75 IQ guy had a point there. But yeah. I mean, I don't agree with this. Like, I don't agree with the idea that, like, somebody who succeeds did it all on their own, and that somebody who failed also did that all on their own. I do think circumstances play into it. And yes, every so often you have a person who defies the odds and succeeds against all odds. And then conversely, every so often you have a person who fails against all odds, who had everything set in their favor but still fails. But those are outliers. The vast majority of people, their success and failure corresponds a lot to their upbringing, their circumstances, their genetics, their psychological disposition. So no, I don't believe that you're 100% responsible for your own actions. And also there's peer pressure. Like the people around you are a major factor. Like for instance, when I was a teenager, I had a lot of friends who were very bad influences and they influenced me to do some stupid shit. And you know what made me stop doing stupid shit? Moving away from them. So it's like, hey, lo and behold, being in a better environment away from shitty people can make you do fewer shitty things yourself. Also, growing up, that's another thing. So again, age, that's another factor in psychological disposition. So there's a lot of factors there. So no, I don't believe that everybody's a totally autonomous individual, that we're all just islands and that we're all totally responsible. And also, frankly, some Christians do this, and I don't like it, where there's a certain type of Christian, mostly Calvinists, who say that if you do anything good, it's God, but if you do anything bad, it's you. It's like, hold on. So you're saying if you do something good, it's God, but if you do something bad, it's not the devil, it's you? That sounds a bit unfair to me. I'm just going to say that's a bit unfair. It's like, if all the good things that are done through you are through God, then surely all, or at least some of the bad things you do can be attributed to demonic influence. You know, like I'm just saying fair is fair. And I think some Christians would probably agree with that. Like I think a lot of Christians would say, yes, bad people do bad things through demonic influence, through giving into it. But at the same time, because of external forces to some extent. So it's like, again, it's kind of like that. But again, it's a bit different, though, because from the Calvinist perspective, the good things you do are through God, whereas from the totally libertarian capitalist perspective, it's like, no, the good things and the bad things you do are both entirely through you. So, I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the perspective that, like, you're 100% a free agent and that your circumstances don't matter. Similarly, a lot in line with that, for the same reasons, the phrase all men are created equal from the U.S. Constitution. Again, for the reasons I've just said, no, all men are not created equal, not genetically, not in terms of their circumstances, not in terms of their upbringing. No, not all men or women, not all people are created equal. That's just bullshit. And that's one thing that I've always been raised. My dad always repeated that to me, always, like constantly, almost like a broken record. But it's like, you know what? He was fucking right about that. He was 100% right about that. That all men are created equal is like one of the biggest fucking lies in history, and that it's total bullshit. Total absolute bullshit. Like if you want to say like all men should be regarded equally and fairly under the law, that's different. But saying all men are created equal, I mean, sure, you can try to cope and say, oh, it really just means all men should be treated equally under the law. But it's like, I don't think that's what it means, because I think if that's what it meant, they would have phrased it that way. I think they genuinely, to some extent, believe in this theory of like tabula rasa, blank slate, that everybody has an equal opportunity. Everybody has equal capability. No, they don't. They didn't even believe it themselves, though, because they had slaves and because women weren't treated equally at the time. And I mean, even despite the pretenses, there was classism in America at the time, too. But yeah, fair enough. It's bullshit. Let me put it this way. If they meant it as in all men are equal, as in they should be treated equally and fairly under the law, they really should have phrased it that way, because it's a statement that can very, very easily be misinterpreted. And again, I'm not convinced that this is a misinterpretation. I think this may have very well been what the Founding Fathers actually meant. But regardless of whether or not it is a misinterpretation, it's a poorly phrased line because it can be easily interpreted that way. Not to mention the extent to which this phrase has been used to justify civic nationalism and mass immigration, also. But yeah. Okay, moving on. The next one, any variation of you are either with me or against me. You are either with me or my enemy. Anyone who's willing to talk to my enemy is the same as my enemy. Anyone who is not us is our enemy. Any variation of that. It's basically an inability to see shades of gray. It's basically seeing the entire world in shades of black and white. And people do this across the political spectrum. If you're not us, you're a fucking liberal Marxist. If you're not us, you're a fascist Nazi. If you're not us, you're a tyrannical authoritarian. And yes, there are some people who will say, if you're not us, you're a libertarian anarchist. And if I ever do say that, I shouldn't. Okay, I should never imply that everybody who disagrees with me at all are libertarians. But the people who openly fucking shill for libertarianism are libertarians. But that being said, it is a fallacy, okay? I can understand the accusation in the context, like, a lot of people claim not to be X, but they're very X adjacent. That is often a true argument, that there's people who say, well, I'm not so-and-so, like I'm not a communist, I'm not a libertarian, I'm not a national socialist, I'm not a fascist, I'm not whatever the fuck. People will say that, but then they go 99% of the way and they hold water for this ideology, and they always defend people of this ideology who are more extreme than them. So it's like, yes, you are that thing for all intents and purposes in that case. But the thing is, people will abuse this, and they will say that literally anyone who disagrees with me is my enemy. It's like, no, it's not true. Like, not everybody who disagrees with me on any issue disagrees with me on every issue. Not anyone who, like, again, I don't even know what ideology I would say I hate the most. I guess I would probably say it would be like globalist capitalism, like kind of like globalist Globo H slur, you know. Can I say that on YouTube? I don't know. Like homogenized milk, you know, homo milk. So like, yeah, Globo, yeah. But my point is, yeah, I guess that ideology would probably be the ideology I hate most, although that's in a present day context. There might be other ideologies historically that might be worse, like, say, the early stages of the USSR. But nonetheless, even if that ideology in a present day context is the ideology I hate most because I encounter it the most in daily life in a negative context, do I think that everybody who disagrees with me is the embodiment of Globo H slur? No, I don't. I don't think everybody who disagrees with me is literally that. I think people can disagree with me for other reasons. Some people disagree with me because they are strong ethno-nationalists for a specific country that is not mine. Some people disagree with me because they have this like very specific fixation on like a certain time period that they want to go back to. Like, there are other reasons why people would disagree with me, or religious reasons or what have you. So yes, no, not everybody who disagrees with me is my biggest enemy, my part of like the ideology I consider my enemy ideology. It's just bullshit. Okay, the next one is a variation of this. By being a centrist, you're choosing the middle ground between good and evil, between the totally good ideology and the totally evil one. Again, I hear people both on the left and the right saying this. It's like, oh, you want to be, oh, you believe halfway with the people who stand for truth and justice, and halfway for the people who stand for disorder and oppression and injustice. It's like both sides use the exact same fucking talking point there, and it's like, these are just words, okay? These are just saying we're good, they're bad. Our team good, their team bad. It's not really an argument in and of itself. And I'm not even a centrist. Like, I'm very right on some issues and very left on a few also. but I'm not a centrist. But nonetheless, this argument against centrists is a stupid one. Okay, the next one. No human being is illegal. Yes, actually, by law, human beings can be illegal. If you're in a different country illegally, you are an illegal by definition. Moving on. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. Okay. Technically, they're correct in terms of freedom of speech de jure, but I would argue on a de facto level, yes, actually, freedom of speech does have to mean freedom from certain consequences, because I think if you have a society that not only has de jure free speech, but also de facto free speech, you have to have certain protections for free speech that go beyond simply being protected from being legally punished for your speech. You have to be protected from being fired for your speech or being denied a job for your speech also. Or denied like being able to rent or own property or whatever. Or participate in the economy in whatever way. Like it's bullshit because it goes against the spirit of free speech at very least. It goes against the idea of a culture of free speech. So it's like, yeah, technically de jure, they're correct, but de facto, no, they're not correct. Okay. I'm going to have to censor myself a bit on this one, but nobody is forcing you to take the antidote to the big event of 2020/2021. Yes, they are forcing. By liberals and leftists' own definition of consent, people did not consent to that because they were heavily coerced. They were denied certain opportunities. And it was leveraged before them being like, you can only participate in society if you take this antidote. So no, I'm sorry, it wasn't a free choice. It was heavily coerced. It was heavily pressured. By their own definition, people did not consent to that. Like, I took it, but I did not consent to it. By their own definition of consent, I did not consent to it because I was coerced. So it's flagrant hypocrisy. Okay, next one is the idea that my body, my choice. It extends to killing the unborn, but it doesn't extend to getting other people sick. So in other words, refusing to take the antidote or to wear a face mask. It's just, it's bullshit because it's like, how is killing a fetus less of a violation of others' autonomy than getting other people sick? I'm sorry, but killing the fetus is the more direct violation of another's autonomy. Now, to be honest, I'm not as radically anti-abortion as many people in these circles. My opinions on it are a bit more nuanced. But nonetheless, I think this argument is total bullshit. It's like, I'm sorry, but if you're going to say my body, my choice does not extend to like refusing to be injected with this antidote or wear a face mask or whatever, then like it's really hypocritical to say, oh, but it does extend to killing an unborn fetus in my belly, even if it's an unborn fetus that's like practically a full-grown baby. It's like, I'm sorry, this is bullshit. This is a flagrant double standard. Okay. The next, the Holocaust justifies double standards in favor of Israel. No, it doesn't. Jews are not the only group in history to have been persecuted or to undergo genocide. Just ask the Armenians. Just ask the Assyrians, the Greeks, the Tutsis. Just ask the Circassians. Just ask a whole host of other people, the blacks of Darfur. It's just bullshit. No, it doesn't justify this double standard, and you guys need to get off your fucking high horse. So, okay, the next one, similarly, X, and any particular thing will lead to another Shoah. Now, this is why it's hypocritical, because the same people who say this will also say slippery slope is a fallacy, but yet you are using slippery slope. And by the way, I don't think slippery slope is a fallacy. I think it's very real. But I'm saying they're using this argument here because they're saying that like anything will lead to another Showa, anything that remotely goes in that direction. So it's like, so you're saying there is a slippery slope. And again, maybe they are right insofar as like, yes, theoretically certain things could lead to another Showa, but it's hypocrisy because they are the ones who otherwise deny that slippery slope exists. And furthermore, just because slippery slope exists doesn't mean that inherently anyone who slides partway down will slide all the way down. Some societies, some people will consciously stop themselves. They'll be like, okay, we've gone far enough. Let's stop now. There have been historical examples of this happening. Like, for instance, there have been historical cases where certain groups could have been easily wiped out, but the dominant group chose, no, we're not going to wipe them out, or at least we're not going to wipe them out completely. So, like the Native Americans, for instance. So, like, yes, there are examples of a slippery slope stopping in its tracks, where it's like, okay, we've gone far enough, guys. Let's stop now. So, I mean, nonetheless, okay, even if it can stop, I will say, okay, I don't think slippery slope is a fallacy. I do think it's true that things can indeed escalate, although they don't always. But sometimes they do go all the way. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go part of the way. Sometimes they go quite far, but they don't always necessarily go all the way. And sometimes they actually stop pretty soon. And it's like the whole, like, oh, first they came for the Jews, then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak out, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's not always how it goes historically. Sometimes it's like, oh, they come for this one group and then they stop. We don't know. That's the thing. It can go that way, but it doesn't always. That's the thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is slippery slope, it exists, but not every time, not every slippery slope always, not everybody slides all the way. Like the slippery slope exists, but some people will stop their fall. Whether because they're forced to or because they choose to. And it's the same with the whole "you are literally Hitler." Like this entire train of thought. It does it implies slippery slope. And again, these are the same people who, because of when gay marriage and all this stuff happened, they're very adamant there is no slippery slope. Or with marijuana legalization, oh, there's no slippery slope. Oh, but all of a sudden we have magical mushroom dispensaries popping up in Toronto. Who'da thunk, huh? Never saw that one coming. So yeah. The next one is pointing out hypocrisy is whataboutism. I hate the term whataboutism. It's bullshit. It's a perfectly legitimate argument to point out when somebody's being hypocritical or when somebody has a double standard. Pointing out somebody's hypocrisy is not the same as justifying your own misdeeds or your people's misdeeds. It is simply saying, hey, we're not uniquely evil. Yes, we've done bad things, but so have other people. Why are you blaming us for this, but you're not blaming those people for what they did? It's a completely legitimate argument. Argument from precedent is a legitimate argument. I remember one example, the MPA rating system. They used to not allow filmmakers to argue that their movie should get a lower rating because of a previous movie that had similar content that got a lower rating. It used to be they were not allowed to make that argument, but they eventually relented and changed that. So now precedent is allowed when the filmmakers are trying to argue for their movie rating to be appealed to a lower rating. So that's interesting. Like that's a case of where an organization relented and admitted that, hey, whataboutism is a legitimate argument. So there you go. And in law also, like precedent is often respected in law, although not always, but often respected as a legitimate argument. Okay, next I'm going to get into a few ones related to religion. Firstly, flying spaghetti monster, giant teacup. Okay. The reason why flying spaghetti monster and teacup aren't equivalent to the idea of God is because there are people who've had experiences where they genuinely felt or saw things that are indicative of God or specifically indicative of the Christian God, for instance. Like I've encountered and seen things that are extremely unlikely, not impossible, but extremely unlikely. and that do potentially have specifically Christian connotations. Is it 100% certain? No, it's not, but extremely unlikely. That's all I'm going to get into about that because I don't want to schizo post too hard here. But suffice it to say, yes, I've had experiences that fall into that category. Has anyone had those experiences with the flying spaghetti monster or the giant teacup? I doubt anyone has. I sincerely doubt it. I've never heard anyone claiming to. So that is the key difference there, among many other things. The next, okay. So that was an anti-religious argument, but I'm actually now going to go into a couple pro-Christian or pro-religious arguments that I dislike or find fallacious. Okay. The next is you can't be a good person or have morals without religion. I've actually gotten into arguments with a lot of people who I know about this one because I do disagree with it. I think even if there's the argument that there can't be any innate intrinsic morality without God, I think there's to some extent the argument, but there's natural law and there's functionalism, and these things, even from an atheist perspective, could still exist. So you could have some form of morality based on the idea of functionalism, of natural law, of ensuring maximal happiness for everyone, maximal or minimal pain, minimal harm, whatever. Like, I do think there are arguments for people that it is possible to be moral without having religion. And even if these people are lying to themselves to some extent, or they're holding a worldview that is contradictory, at the same time, I think it still counts for something insofar as, like, when you look at their actions, they're still being more moral than a person who's a complete nihilistic piece of shit who just goes around hurting other people and doesn't care about it. Like somebody who behaves like a total sociopath. So yes, I do think it's possible to be a moral person without religion. Is it consistent? Maybe not, but it is still, even if it's hypocritical, even if it is kind of bullshit, it is still it's still better than not doing that. Let me put it that way. It's better than being a consistently nihilistic piece of shit. And I don't think we should be like encouraging atheists to do that, because it kind of is encouraging. It's like saying, hey, if you don't believe in God, you might as well be a complete piece of shit. It's like, I don't think we should be encouraging people to do that. Some people are going to be atheists no matter what. So it's like, I don't know. I kind of think, I think it is possible to have a certain sense of morality based in functionalism and natural law. I'm not an atheist, but I'm saying I don't agree with the idea that atheism can't have its own form of morality. Like, yeah, I don't agree with it. And even if it was hypocritical, even if it was inconsistent, you know what? It's better to be a hypocritical good person than a consistently bad person. So yeah. The next one is Pascal's wager. Now, even like many Christians aren't a big fan of Pascal's wager. Like Redeemed Zoomer had it as the worst argument for Christianity. The problem with Pascal's wager is it doesn't take into account other religions, and it also doesn't take into account the possibility that, like, well, by following a religion, you're wasting your time, you're devoting your energy to things that to certain things instead of others. Like, I'm not saying religion is a waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of time, but I do think the logic behind Pascal's wager is very faulty, and I think in order to truly argue for God, for Christianity, for any religion, you do need a better argument than that. Now, thankfully, there are many better arguments that Christians and other religious people have. But I am just saying, in and of itself, Pascal's wager is a shitty argument. And frankly, I think many Christians and other religious people would agree with me on that one, because I've seen criticism of it, being like, this is very shaky grounds. It's like the parable of the foolish man who built his house upon the sand. Pascal's wager is building your house upon the sand as an argument. It's a poor argument. It's a bad one. But yeah. So those are all the shitty arguments in this list that I've debunked one by one. So yeah, that's all for now.